Questions arise about her early intentions. In retrospect, who cares about her intentions? But what a great line reminding you of just the beginning. Just the beginning of exciting love. The start of romance. But there were things we didn't see. No, we didn't see. We were blinded by the lure of love. Just the beginning of sensual love. Understanding with our hearts. I never thought we'd ever part or fail to realize how very fragile was our love from the start. I guess it was an interlude, a flight for sure we all would love to take. I wonder where did it all go? Who would ever know? It was just the beginning of crazy love. Play it crazy, Stef. Just the beginning of hopeful love, not unlike the way children play. But we were caught up in the game, we would never be the same. Can you tell me what became of an easy love? Just the beginning of our love, dear. The first note of a symphony. We were in perfect harmony. But was all the music played? Or was it only just for fun? I guess it was an interlude, a flight for sure we all would love to take. I wonder where did it all go? Oh, who would ever know? It was just the beginning of our love affair. That lovely love affair. Who would ever know? Who would ever know? It was just the beginning of our love affair. That lovely love affair. It was just the beginning. It was just the beginning. Just the beginning. You see, just the beginning can have so many starts and so many stops. That's just the way life is. This next story revolves around a 42-year-old excellent surgical podiatrist. And he had who had recently been divorced from a miserable marriage. He had no children. He was single, and he had a best friend who was a lawyer. And his lawyer tried to urge him to obtain disability insurance. Well, he said, what do I need that for? I'm 42 years old, I'm in perfect health. I was a hockey player in college, and I still play hockey now. Anyway, his friend, the lawyer, convinces him to obtain the disability insurance. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, he gets in a terrible car accident, comes again into suburban hospital with a head injury, life-threatening. I operate on him, and he survives. Now, he was left-handed, so everything was fine after the surgery, except that he had a tremor from the damage that he'd had from his injury. So this tremor prohibited him from operating ever again. So I was able to write for him a permanent disability policy for $120,000 for the rest of his life, tax-free. Not bad so far. We at least saved his life, and he could have some financial compensation. Well, I liked him, and patients, as I may have said before, are like people. Some you like and some you don't like. That's just the way it is from human nature. He sort of resembled Michael J. Fox, and after surgery, after they go home, I usually saw a patient 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 12 weeks, and then a year later. And during the time of my seeing him post-operatively, I just liked him more and more. He was enchanting, very charismatic fellow. And I said to him, you know, there is a terrific Ethiopian nurse over at the Holy Cross Hospital intensive care unit who's single, and I think you may like her. And he kept telling me, Doc, I'm just not ready, I'm just not ready. So finally, after about 6 or 7 months or so, I said to him, you know, somebody's going to pick her up. She's really a very nice girl. So he agrees to go out with her, and they go out. And I call her up the next day, and so what did you think? She says, what did I think? How embarrassing. How could you do this to me? I said, what do you mean? She said, well, he took me out to a very fancy restaurant. I was all dressed up. I was wearing high heels, and he came up to my chest. So I was taken aback a little bit, but I said, you know, the only thing I can think of is while you're in bed, it really doesn't matter how tall you are. And then I called him up, and I said, so what did you think? He said, what did I think? I'm blown away. She's perfect for me. I said, you know, there may be a little bit of a height issue. And he responded to me, and I'll never forget it. Don't worry about it, Doc. I'm very patient, I'm very persistent, and I have a lot of confidence in myself. Sure enough, about a month later, she calls me up and says, you know, I kind of like him. Another month later, she calls me up and says, I think I'm falling in love with him. To make a long story short, a few months later, they were married. I was best man at their wedding. They had this wonderful Ethiopian wedding. They are married now. They have 2 little girls. They're like peas in a pod. And what he does is he now uses his medical background to travel to Africa to make sure that all the kids get their vaccinations through the Red Cross. So I think that's pretty much a full-service neurosurgical service. After all, you save the guy's life, you get him disability insurance for the rest of his life, you want to introduce him to his wife, and he's married and has 2 children. I'm kind of proud of that. And sometimes also, you have to think a little bit out of the box in this field. I had a 31-year-old Israeli man that literally came crawling into my office one day, complaining of excruciating back and leg pain, and really couldn't walk, and had a friend of his help him. So when I went over and saw his MRI, I saw that he had a huge ruptured lumbar disc in his back, and he needed an operation right away. This is at the bottom of his spine where the nerves are, not the spinal cord, but it's below the spinal cord end, and where the nerve roots fall together like a horse's tail. It's called the cauda equina. And he had compression on this cauda equina that can do serious problems if you don't free it up pretty fast. I explained to him the danger of it, and he needs an operation. And then he starts shouting at me, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? And I said, no, who the hell are you anyway? He said, I am the United States dirt bike riding champion for the past 3 years, and we have our main event coming up in 2 weeks in Atlanta, Georgia, that lasts for 4 days, and I've got a race. I said, well, it's against the medical advice. There's no way that you can do this, and I'm going to allow you to do that. He says, well, what happens if I get on the bike, which I think I can do? I said, well, that's okay, but what happens when you fall off the bike? He said, no, the answer is no, you can't do it. You need an operation now. He says, really? Well, I'm out of here. And he crawls out. And I'm thinking, how in the heck can I make this guy understand how serious this is? The next morning he calls me up. And he calls me up and says, Doc, you're right, I can't stand it. When can you do me? I admitted him to the hospital, did the surgery, and the next day after the surgery was one of those cases where all this pain and weakness completely went away. So I saw that I was healing well because this was done with a micro-neurosurgical technique. The incision is only about 1.5 centimeters long, and his healing was going fine. So I said, now, here's what I want you to do with medical advice. You're going to wear a back brace, and you're going to race in that race in 10 days. And sure enough, he does. The first 3 days he came in first. The fourth day he was running first, and then he fell. The bike slipped, and he fell. So he didn't win the race, but he sends me back a picture of him taking a turn on the bike. You know, there's one of those classic racing pictures. And the inscription says, to Dr. Stopak, thank you very much, 10 days after major back surgery.